Bryce Huff. I want to share the screen on this one. This is kind of interesting. This was Brandon Graham the other day talking about Bryce Huff.
Every play, it's always
and his days in Philly and why it didn't work. And I know you've seen this before, but let's hear this one more time.
But the Jets, it was just that defense, man. I know what it's like playing in that 4-3 wide 9. Go get it. Every play, it's always stop the run on the way to the quarterback. That's the slogan in that type of defense. So that's what it's all. I feel like it's all scheme. I mean, I've seen different guys flourish in different systems, and then you see them get in another system is different. And what they asked of them this year, it just wasn't a great marriage, I would say, because I know Huff can rush. I see him doing all that, but sometimes it's just different with the type of scheme and what people ask of you and they want you to be able to do. And maybe it just wasn't that for Vic Fangio or I mean, you don't really know. I mean, I just know that he a baller, man, and he hopefully for him, I want it to be a win-win for the team and win for him. But in this case, I want him to be happy, go out if it's here or somewhere else, for him to be able to go show what he can these prime years for him.
What happened in Philly with Huff? I mean, is it simply, he's a defensive end, he's not an outside linebacker, he can't do it from a 2-point stance, he can't drop into coverage, and they ask their guys to do that, and the Niners don't, and he'll be a fit here? Or was there regression? Is there you cover this team, this Eagles team and the Niner team, and you do it on a daily basis. So what can you tell us about Huff and his time in Philly?
This is the huge thing for me, and this is why I think that he can be a great addition for San Francisco. And with how busy I've been over the last couple of weeks, going to a wedding, being in a wedding, you and I actually haven't been able to talk about this Bryce Huff trade.
Right.
With the Eagles, Vic Fangio runs a 3-4. And so Bryce Huff was brought in. Howie Roseman gave him $34 million in guaranteed money. And the Eagles' thought process was, okay, this is a former undrafted free agent who has progressed. He's improved. He's gotten better every year. And in 2023, he had 10 sacks and 57 pressures while playing less than 50% of the snaps. Let's sign him because this is an emerging player who we can find ways to make it work. He has this innate ability to push the pocket, collapse the pocket, and get after the quarterback. We can make it work with our scheme. When he was with the Jets under Robert Saleh was running the 4-3, the wide 9. Bryce Huff was in a 3-point stance, 2 feet on the ground, 1 hand in the ground, and he was playing right defensive end, left defensive end. Saleh used him in a very versatile way. In Vic Fangio's defense, running the aforementioned 3-4, the Eagles tried to use him as a stand-up outside linebacker who sometimes would have to drop back in coverage. That impacted Huff for a variety of reasons. When he is in that 3-point stance, he's able to look down the line of scrimmage, he's able to time the snap, and he is very explosive, quick and twitchy when getting off at the line of scrimmage. He's also a little bit of a shorter player. And so when he has his hand in the dirt, he's able to get good leverage and bend the edge and get beneath some of those offensive tackles and win with his explosiveness. When you are a 3-4 outside linebacker, a lot of times it's more read and react. And his get off wasn't as fast because he was a stand-up pass rusher. He wasn't used to being a stand-up guy. He was used to putting his hand in the dirt in a 4-3. And then also, he's never been a great run defender, but sometimes he would have to drop back in coverage and then read and react in going up against the run. And so Robert Saleh knows how to use him. Robert Saleh has familiarity with him. Bryce Huff is the perfect addition for Nick Bosa and this defensive line. You're not going to ask him to be a 3-down player. You're going to ask him to be a speed rusher Bugatti guy off the edge, to move with velocity like a Ferrari, and be that pass rush specialist. Nick Bosa has not had this kind of guy his entire career. The Niners thought they were getting that guy in D Ford. He barely played with Nick Bosa. He had that neck injury. And so with build and with game, Bryce Huff is very similar to Dee Ford, who prior to the Niners was a terrific player for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so the Niners give up a 5th-round pick, which can become a 4th. They have a bevy of picks next year, so that doesn't really matter. The Eagles restructured his contract. The Niners are paying him less than $8 million this year. He's a good scheme fit, has familiarity with Saleh, and he's a great complement to Bosa. I think this trade is a huge win. Knock it out of the park for the San Francisco 49ers. And a lot of the Eagles beat writers have said, look, he's probably going to be very productive for the Niners. That's fine because it just didn't work out with the Eagles. They also drafted Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith, 2 young players who they really like. They signed Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari, and they were ahead of Bryce Huff in the edge rusher rotation. Right from the jump when Huff was signed by the Eagles, Vic Fangio never trusted him. He wasn't running with the ones in training camp last year. He played deep into preseason games. And it just comes down to the simple fact that he wasn't a scheme fit. With the Niners, he will be. And I think he's going to be a really productive player this year. And I know that you've shared a lot of that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm a believer. It's interesting because Chris Kocurek, when he was asked about it the other day, he had a really interesting answer. He's got a little frog in the throat today. But he said the step sequencing is quite a bit different,
so different
for a 4-3 defensive end in a wide 9, get up the field, than in a 2-point stance. And this guy, is not even in a Nick Bosa 3-point stance. He's in a 4-point stance, like a track star. I mean, he's literally and the one thing about Bryce Huff, if you're looking at him in practice, you're thinking he's not that impressive. He's, as far as his physique. They list him at 6'3". He doesn't look 6'3".
I'd say he's a UDFA. Remember that. Like, he was a UDFA for a reason.
Right. And he's 6'1", 250. But he's rocked up in the shoulders.
Yep.
He's really strong up top. But where he's really special is he's got the get off, and it's like he's got it down. So every step is choreographed like a ballerina. And this guy comes firing out of his stance, and it's funny watching him. He doesn't look like much at practice, and then all of a sudden he gets lined up, and Chris is barking the cadence, and he goes, and every time Chris is like, great get off, because there is no wasted movement. Yep. It's choreographed, it's streamlined, it's been worked on. He's just really, really good at getting off the football, and it's a skill. I mean, give you an example. What I love the most about CJ West right now is that if you watch his college film, he doesn't get off the ball. He gets left like a horse in a starting gate. He's constantly not getting off the ball, and he's winning reps anyway. That tells you how physically dominant he is. They'll eventually get CJ West to get off the ball. And when he does get off the ball, he'll get his hands on the offensive lineman before they get their hands on him. He'll totally change his thing. So I think CJ West doesn't get off the ball. Huff gets off the ball. And obviously, if you can get off the ball, you can cover up a lot of weaknesses in your game. Okay, last question. What is your biggest concern? And I bring this up because we have one super here from Ricky Williams. He says, 2 of the best minds in this space. Great show, fellas. Thank you, Ricky. He says, you're betting money. What's more likely, that the Niners are buyers or sellers at the trade deadline, and what position? So this kind of folds right into my question to you is, as we sit here, Chase, in mid-June, June 13th, we know what the Niners' big concerns were coming into the offseason. What is your biggest concern about the upcoming 49ers season in mid-June?
Yeah, definitely appreciate that, Ricky. And I think with the Niners having the 2nd most cap space in the NFL, if they are competitive and if they are in a position to make a playoff and Super Bowl run, they'll be buyers at the deadline. I mean, look at the moves that they have made over the last few years. They traded for Chase Young. They traded for Christian McCaffrey. They traded for Charles Omenihu. They traded for Jordan Willis. If they're in a spot to be Super Bowl contenders, they will make a move to improve their football team and be aggressive. And I think that they are going to be a winning team going into the deadline. As for what position that is, it all depends on how healthy you are at certain spots and the holes that you have potentially on your roster. And we'll see what happens when you go midway through the year, where this roster is at that spot. As for my biggest concern with this team, I would probably say right now it's the inexperience at linebacker, because D. Winters and Nick Martin are unknown commodities. I would say the uncertainty at safety, because Malik Mustafa is coming off that injured ACL. Jair Brown had that ankle surgery, and you're running Jason Pinnock and Richie Grant. I would
who have looked good. I'll give, we got to give those guys a little credit. I
was going to ask you how they've looked.
Richie Grant, especially.
Former second-round pick, by the way.
He looks good. And then I know, people who follow me and watch every video, when the Niners signed Richie Grant, the word was, and I read it in 7 articles, he's a special teamer. He's not a special teamer. He's not. He's a scrimmage player. He is a much better scrimmage player than people think. He was, as Chase just said, he was a second-round pick at Appalachian State. He's a really good football player.
UCF,
he has shown some dominant traits on the field. To me, if you say who's looked good that I didn't really expect to look good, Jason Pinnock and Richie Grant.
Yeah, Pinnock is a really interesting player too. He's played corner and safety for the Giants. His wingspan is so long. And if you look at his TFL quarterback hit and sack numbers, he's been a really good player around the line of scrimmage. And so Robert Saleh knows that. And I expect Robert Saleh to utilize him to his strengths, unlike Nick Sorensen, who would probably have him dropping back in coverage. And so, look, you saying that Richie Grant, Jason Pinnock look good, that's great, right? But the uncertainty at safety, I think, is a little bit of a concern for me.
Is there a safety you want? I mean, some people are saying Ramsey. Some people are saying
out there.
Who do you like? Blackman?
Justin Simmons and Julian Blackman are still free agents right now.
I haven't studied either guy to say exactly the strengths and weaknesses. I would say that they like Siegel's coverage ability, and they like Malik Mustafa as a strong safety, I think.
Siegel runs 4.3 too. Runs really well.
Yeah, Siegel runs incredibly well. But I've heard that he's really got it between the ears. Okay. So, I mean, now you've got Pinnock, you've got Grant, you've got, Odom. I mean, they have some numbers there. I don't know. Part of me says, go for one of those veterans, but I don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are, or if it would be better to wait until the cut down and see who kind of shakes free.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, I think this is a good football team. I do like this roster, especially if they can stay healthy with the coaching upgrades. But yeah, to just rapid fire go through it. There's question marks at linebacker because Nick Martin and D. Winters are unproven. There are question marks at safety because of the injuries to your 2 starters in Mustafa and Jair Brown. It's great that the depth pieces look good so far. Cornerback depth is a little bit of an issue. If Diamador Lenore were to go down, that's not good, because at outside corner, the first guy up there would be Trey Brown with Upton Stout in the slot, and then Renardo Green on the outside. There are question marks at wide receiver because of Ricky Pearsall's injury, Brandon Ayuk's injury, but it's good that Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins have been impressing. I think Demarcus Robinson was a really good pickup for the Niners.
He's looked really good, by the way.
He's looked
really
playoffs
good
every year of his NFL career. He was top 10 in yards per catch last year. He's not a burner, but he makes plays downfield. He could take the top off of the defense. He can go up and get it. And then I would add offensive line in there as well, just because we're not sure who's going to be the left guard. Colton McKivitz is just okay. If Trent Williams were to go down and Dominic Puding were to go down, that could spell disaster, and Jake Brendel is completely average to me. So those are my biggest concerns coming to mind right now for the Niners. How about you?
So I made a list of the potential concerns, right? And this is what was on the list. Kicker.
Oh, kicker. Duh. Yeah.
Special teams.
Punter now too.
Punter, special teams, kicker, punter, special teams, just all of it.
I'm just thinking defense.
Offensive line, running back depth, wide receiver separation was a major issue last year.
Yep.
Red zone offense was a disaster last year.
Third down too.
Run defense was a disaster last year. Third down defense was a disaster last year. Injuries and pass rush. And I'm looking at this thing. Okay, so let's go through it. The wide receiver separation, I think they've addressed it. I like Cowing. I like Watkins. I think they're going to have more separation this year.
Pearsall can separate if he can stay healthy.
I think even Demarcus Robinson had a play. You know, it's like Robinson had a play the other day where he made it look like he was covered, but him and Purdy threw it to a spot where he knew Robinson was going to be. Robinson waited while the ball was in the air till like the last second and then moved over at the last second and caught the ball in the clear.
A little box
and it's
out.
like, yeah, and it was like, wow, that is how you can run 4.6 and still average 16 or 17 yards per reception. He's really good with the ball in the air. So I think wide receiver separation is been addressed. Red zone offense, I think that's a lot about Christian and his health. The run defense, I think, has been addressed in the draft. I think the running back depth with Garendo and Kiner and James, I think that's been addressed. I even like Izzy Abanaconda. I think the O-line, as I said, I think even though it wasn't addressed as a primary, I think the backups were addressed. I like the special teams just because, like, how could it be worse, right? How could it be worse?
Yeah.
But I would say the two areas that worry me, one, generally injuries and specifically injuries to Christian.
Yeah.
That would be my first one because Christian and Christian and Trent last year combined to play just 14 games.
14 games.
So that's not enough. And Christian has missed at least 10 games in 3 of the last 5 seasons, and he's had almost 1,900 touches. So you know what? I'm worried about Christian's health. So that's my first one because the Niners are this kind of a team with Christian and this kind of a team without him.